So there's another question. How can there be emptiness if there's no fullness? Or fullness without emptiness? And over these last weeks and months even, it's been said that we're exploring the nature of our understanding of emptiness, and yet the stories seem to be that they're exploring reality. So it comes back to that question, just like you're asking, isn't it? But basically, how can we have emptiness without fullness, or fullness without emptiness? And take this back to those little anecdotes, those little Zen anecdotes, where the two monks are looking up at the flagpole, and they're having an argument. In fact, one is saying that it's the wind that's moving, and the other one is saying it's the flag that's moving. Well, their master comes along, who happens to be the sixth Zen patriarch, and they ask him to solve this dilemma for them, and he said, it's not the wind that's moving, nor the flag that's moving, it's your mind that's moving. But several decades later, a group of monks were gathered visiting a monastery as they were wandering monks, and they were having a discussion about this, and it got rather heated. But as their loud voices penetrated down the passageways of the monastery, a nun came out, and she said to them, what's all this noisy debate going on? And they told her, and she said, you stupid fellows, if there's no wind that's moving, nor flag that's moving, how can there be a mind that moves? Have you ever been walking down the street in a foreign land, or even in a foreign city, and you turn around the corner and then you bump into someone from your hometown, and you have a moment taken back? Where am I? Like a collision of worlds? Or you wake up from a deep sleep and you think, where am I? Until you orient yourself. Or you come out of the movie theatre and all of a sudden you realize you're not Mary Poppins saying supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Well, who are you? Haven't we had moments like that? Where either worlds collide, realities collide, which discombobulate us in that moment. Oh, where am I? Or wake up or come out of the movie and so become so totally absorbed or lost in that reality. We've lost ourselves virtually. But there's a story of a certain Jewish Hasid, and he was very devoted to his rabbi, a very learned and scholarly and saintly man. But this Hasid was also a rich merchant, and being a traditionalist, he longed for a son that could say the prayers for him when he died. This was the custom. But he'd been married almost 10 years, and his wife had borne him no son. So even knowing that the rabbi was against divorce, he decided that he was going to confront the rabbi and ask the rabbi to permit him to divorce his wife, to enable him to remarry, to endeavor to have a son. So the Hasid made the long journey to his rabbi's house very early in the morning, before breakfast, and when he came to the rabbi's door, the rabbi's wife ushered him in and took him into the sitting room and sat him down. And as he sat there, he had the delicious smells of breakfast wafting in his nose. But he sat and waited, and he saw the rabbi go past the doorway to the kitchen several times, but no approach was made to him, nor was there an invitation to ask him for breakfast. And then time passed, and the rabbi passed the doorway again on the way to his study, but no invitation was made to him to be with the rabbi. And lunchtime came, and again the delicious smells of soup came from the kitchen, but again no invitation to invite him to share the meal. And no one came to the door, so the rabbi obviously had no one else coming to visit him that day. But he was left languishing until even evening came, and an evening meal was served. And by this time the Hasid's stomach was grumbling, and he was thirsty. And finally, the rabbi's wife came and invited the Hasid in to the rabbi's study. Well, when he sat down, the rabbi asked him, "Well, why have you come?" And the Hasid explained, "Well, I've been married to my wife for almost 10 years, and she's not borne me a son, so I've come to ask for a divorce." But as a little diversion, while they were having this exchange, the wife brought in a delicious plate of kukra, just freshly baked, and the Hasid's stomach was grumbling with hunger. So just after he'd finished telling his story, the rabbi said, Here, have a piece of kukra." So the Hasid took one bite. Delicious, it was like the nectar of the gods. But strange, as it would seem, that one bite of kukra seemed to satiate his hunger. He was no longer hungry. And then the rabbi said, "Yes, you can have your divorce. On the anniversary, the 10th anniversary of your wedding, bring your wife along here with your documents and we'll sign the divorce papers." So it so happened. And after this, the merchant was free to find another wife, and he did. And 1 year after they were married, they had a daughter. And the next year they had another daughter, and another daughter, until they had 6 daughters, but no son. And still the Hasid longed to have the son that would say the prayers for him when he passed over. So he decided that he would go back to the rabbi and seek a divorce. So he did. And this time the wife ushered him straight in to the rabbi's study, where he was sat down, and there again was a plate of kukra, and the rabbi offered a kukra too. And again he took a bite of this delicious food. And the merchant explained his case, that he now had 6 daughters. "Yes," said the rabbi, "you can have a divorce." So at great expense, of course, the merchant divorced his wife and married a third. And a great blessing occurred. 1 year later, they had a son, a beautiful boy, clever. By the time he was 3 years old, he was a prodigy. And The merchant was so proud of him. But the merchant had to go on a journey to do business. But he couldn't bear to leave his son behind. So bringing a nurse and a tutor along, they embarked on a ship and they set out for the far distant shore where business was to be undertaken. But a great storm came and the ship overturned, and in front of the merchant's eyes he saw his beloved son being whirled off by the waves and carried down off to his death. The merchant wanted to die himself, but the nature of man being what it is, a piece of debris floated by, and the merchant grabbed the debris to save his life. And he was washed up on the shore and eventually made his way back to his home city. But he could not bear to go and face his wife to tell her of the loss of their son. He went straight to the house of the rabbi. The rabbi himself opened the door, and the merchant, bursting into tears and sobbing, began to tell his story as the rabbi ushered him in to his study. There was the plate of kukku. This was offered to the merchant, but he refused. No, I cannot eat. So, said the rabbi, have you come for another divorce? No, said the man, I've had enough of divorces. I do not want to divorce. And then the rabbi said, you cannot have a divorce. What do you mean? Said the merchant. I haven't come for a divorce. And then the rabbi picked up a newspaper that was on the table nearby, and he showed it to the merchant. It was the same day as the merchant had entered the rabbi's house. The merchant could not believe this miracle that had happened. How could this be, that so many events could occur in a matter of just a few moments, hardly even few hours? But the merchant learned well from this experience, and he went back to his wife, who he loved from the beginning. 2 years later, they had a son, and that son grew to be the one who indeed said the prayers over the dying and dead body of his father, the merchant. When we're looking at the nature of reality, I am that I am, and we have these worlds colliding, that moment, it's absolutely real when we come out of the theatre, or we bump into someone in a foreign country, or we wake up in the morning. And where am I? Who am I? Where is it? And the kaleidoscope of realities. Where do they meet? And again it brings us back to this question. Where do stillness and movement meet? Because we have to acknowledge that in that moment, where we're discombobulated, where we're between worlds, out of the theatre, or waking up out of a deep sleep, before the word comes in, the thoughts come in, is that absolute place of stillness. Where do they meet and what occurs from it? So this is a very wonderful question, isn't it? Can we meditate on it? Can we meditate on it with our mind? And yet, if we don't, can we arrive at the place where we do know what happens? This is our dilemma. And we see it all along, with the monks going to the mountain and sitting in a cave for 10 years, 20 years, 15 years. Is that it? Sitting, contemplating our navel? Is it, on the opposite side, being caught in life, in the movement of life? What's happened for you to bring you to this place? This is the question that's asked. What is it that's brought you to this place? Where you can ask that question. And we need to find the answer. And yet we're in this dilemma. If it's not to be found in the movement, and it's not to be found in this stillness of sitting in a cave somewhere or meditating till our eyeballs drop out, what is it then? Where is the meeting place? That's what it's about.